How old do you think Stoicism is? Is it just another internet buzzword trending in self-help circles, or does it have roots stretching thousands of years back? Picture this. It's 300 BCE. A young merchant named Zeno of Citium is shipwrecked off the coast of Athens. His entire fortune is lost. But instead of spiraling into despair, Zeno finds something far more valuable than wealth: wisdom. He stumbles upon the teachings of ancient philosophers, and over time, he develops a framework for life that would change the world forever. That framework? Stoicism. Fast forward 2,000 years, and Stoicism is everywhere. We hear quotes from Marcus Aurelius in business seminars, advice from Seneca on how to stay calm under pressure, and wisdom from Epictetus teaching us to control what we can and let go of the rest. But here's what's fascinating. Where exactly did Stoicism begin? Who created it? And why has it lasted for over 2 millennia? In this video, we'll explore the story of Stoicism's birth, its journey through history, and why its teachings are just as relevant today as they were in ancient Greece and Rome. By the end, you'll have a solid understanding of just how old Stoicism really is, and why it's still considered a life-changing philosophy today. Ready? Let's get started. Before we dive deep into history, let's clear up one question. What exactly is Stoicism? At its heart, Stoicism is a practical philosophy. It's not just something you learn, it's something you live. The Stoics believed life is unpredictable. Things will go wrong, people will disappoint you, and sometimes the world feels chaotic. But instead of getting swept away by emotions or circumstances, Stoicism teaches you how to stay calm, resilient, and focused on what matters. Now let's bust a myth real quick. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending to be a robot. It's about understanding your emotions and mastering your response. If you're angry, sad, or frustrated, that's okay. But the Stoics would ask, what happens next? The Stoics broke life into 2 simple categories. What you can control, your actions, thoughts, beliefs, and decisions. What you can't control, everything else like other people's actions, the economy, the weather, or the past. Here's an example. Imagine you're running late for work, and it starts pouring rain. The bus is delayed, and you're drenched. Frustrating, right? The rain and the traffic are out of your control, but how you react is in your hands. Do you spend the whole day grumbling about your bad luck, or do you shrug it off, laugh, and keep going? This mindset comes from a key Stoic principle, amor fati, or love of fate. Amor fati means accepting and even embracing everything that happens, good or bad, because resisting reality only causes suffering. If you can learn to face challenges with curiosity instead of frustration, every setback becomes an opportunity to grow. And that's where Stoicism shines. It's not a philosophy for ivory tower scholars, it's for real life. Whether you're dealing with heartbreak, losing a job, or a stressful Monday morning, Stoicism gives you tools to navigate it all. But who were these Stoics? Let's meet the big 3 names who shaped Stoicism into what we know today. Seneca, a Roman statesman and playwright who wrote about success, wealth, and stress management. Seneca believed life is short, so we shouldn't waste it on things that don't matter. His letters to friends, filled with advice, are still read today. Epictetus, a former slave who became a philosopher and teacher. Epictetus taught that freedom isn't your external circumstances, but about mastering your mind. He's famous for saying, "We are disturbed not by events, but by our opinions about events." Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled one of the largest empires in history. Marcus practiced Stoicism while managing wars, politics, and personal struggles. His private journal, Meditations, is a timeless guide to living a meaningful life. These guys lived 2,000 years ago, yet their wisdom still hits home. Think about it. Seneca's advice on stress, Epictetus's lessons on mental freedom, Marcus Aurelius's reflections on resilience. We need those lessons now more than ever. Today, Stoicism is everywhere. It's in books, podcasts, YouTube videos, and even Instagram captions. Why? Because its lessons are simple and timeless. Focus on what you accept, what you can't control. See every challenge as an opportunity to grow. So, if you've ever faced rejection, loss, or frustration, and who hasn't, Stoicism is like a toolkit for life. It doesn't promise to make life easier, but it does make you stronger. And it all started with one man, Zeno of Citium. But where did Zeno get his ideas? How did a shipwrecked merchant end up creating a philosophy that would influence millions of people for centuries? To understand where Stoicism began, we need to travel back over 2,300 years to ancient Athens around 300 BCE. At the time, Athens was still basking in its golden age of philosophy. Plato's academy was thriving, Aristotle's Lyceum was exploring the sciences, and the Cynics were shaking up society with their radical ideas. Philosophy was everywhere. It was like the TED Talks of the ancient world. People gathered, debated, and tried to answer life's biggest questions. Amid this vibrant intellectual landscape, a young merchant named Zeno of Citium entered Athens. But Zeno wasn't on a grand mission to study philosophy. His story, like many great beginnings, started with disaster. Zeno was born in 334 BCE in Citium, a city on the island of Cyprus. Citium was a melting pot of Greek and Phoenician culture, and Zeno grew up in a wealthy trading family. From a young age, Zeno was familiar with the merchant life, traveling across the Mediterranean, managing trade routes, and dealing in luxury goods like Tyrian purple dye, a highly sought-after product reserved for royalty. Life was comfortable for Zeno until it wasn't. On one fateful voyage, Zeno's ship either sank or he lost his entire cargo. Historical accounts differ, but the outcome was the same. Zeno's fortune was wiped out and he found himself stranded in Athens, penniless and alone. Now, most of us would consider this a tragedy, but for Zeno, this moment of crisis became the catalyst for something extraordinary. As the story goes, Zeno wandered into an Athenian bookshop to clear his mind. There he stumbled upon a book about Socrates, the philosopher who had questioned everything and encouraged people to live examined, virtuous lives. Zeno was hooked. He turned to the bookseller and asked, "Where can I find someone like this Socrates?" The bookseller pointed to a man passing by, Crates of Thebes, a Cynic philosopher. That chance encounter changed everything. To understand Zeno's philosophy, we need to know about the Cynics, the philosophers who inspired him. The Cynics were bold, rebellious thinkers who rejected the materialism and luxury of society. They believed true happiness came from living in harmony with nature and stripping life down to its essentials. The most famous Cynic, Diogenes of Sinope, lived in a barrel, owned nothing, and even mocked Alexander the Great. When Alexander offered to grant him any wish, Diogenes famously said, "Move out of my sunlight." Zeno became a student of Crates of Thebes, one of Diogenes' followers. Under Crates' mentorship, Zeno learned to embrace simplicity, reject external attachments, and focus on virtue as the key to a good life. But Zeno wasn't entirely comfortable with the Cynics' extreme lifestyle. He admired their focus on self-sufficiency and inner strength, but wanted a more balanced approach, one that was practical, rational, and accessible to everyone. After years of studying with Crates and other philosophers, Zeno began to develop his own ideas. He blended the Cynics' focus on virtue with the Socratic method of questioning and Plato's emphasis on reason and ethics. Around 300 BCE, Zeno began teaching his philosophy in the Stoa Poikile, or painted porch, in the center of Athens. The Stoa Poikile was a public space, a covered colonnade decorated with paintings of battles and legends. It was a busy, bustling place where people from all walks of life gathered: merchants, politicians, travelers, and ordinary citizens. Zeno's choice of the Stoa was significant. Unlike other philosophers who taught in private schools, Zeno wanted his philosophy to be accessible to everyone. His students, who became known as Stoics, were a diverse group of people united by their pursuit of wisdom and virtue. Zeno's Stoicism centered around a few key principles that laid the foundation for the philosophy. Virtue is the highest good. The Stoics believed that living a good life meant living virtuously. Virtue for them meant cultivating wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. Everything else, wealth, pleasure, status, was secondary and could not guarantee happiness. Live in accordance with nature. The Stoics taught that humans are part of nature and that our purpose is to live in harmony with it. This means accepting life as it is and aligning our actions with reason and virtue. Focus on what you can control. Zeno emphasized that while we can't control external events, like the weather, other people's actions, or the economy, we can control our thoughts, actions, and responses. By focusing only on what we can control, we can find peace, freedom, and happiness. These principles weren't just abstract theories. Zeno encouraged his students to apply them in daily life. Stoicism was about action, not just talk. Whether you were a politician, a soldier, or a farmer, Stoicism offered practical tools to navigate life's challenges with resilience and wisdom. Zeno's ideas attracted a dedicated group of followers who carried on his work and expanded on his teachings. Among them were Cleanthes, Zeno's immediate successor, who kept Stoicism alive and wrote the hymn to Zeus, a beautiful poem about living in harmony with the universe. Chrysippus, often called the second founder of Stoicism, Chrysippus systematized Stoic philosophy into a comprehensive system of logic, ethics, and physics. He wrote over 700 works and helped Stoicism grow into a major school of thought. By the time Zeno passed away in 262 BCE, Stoicism had firmly established itself in Athens. It wasn't elitist or abstract like some other philosophies. It was practical, relatable, and accessible to everyone. Why did Stoicism resonate so deeply with people? Because it offered answers to life's most pressing questions. How do you find happiness in a world full of suffering? How do you face challenges with courage and grace? How do you live a life of meaning and purpose? Zeno's teachings laid the foundation for a philosophy that would stand the test of time. Over the next few centuries, Stoicism would spread beyond Athens, reaching Rome, where it would influence some of the greatest minds in history, including Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. So how did Stoicism make its way to Rome, and how did it evolve into a philosophy that would shape emperors, generals, and everyday citizens? That's what we'll explore in the next section, the evolution of Stoicism, who made it famous. If Zeno of Citium laid the foundation for Stoicism, it was in Rome, the bustling heart of the ancient world, that Stoicism was elevated to its greatest heights. Roman Stoicism wasn't just about philosophy. It was about living virtuously amidst power, politics, and struggle. This was a time of emperors, slaves, and statesmen, a time when the Roman Empire stretched across continents and chaos often ruled the day. Stoicism spoke to everyone because its principles addressed the human condition. How do you find calm in the middle of chaos? How do you live well when life is unpredictable? How do you focus on what truly matters when the world pulls you in 1,000 directions? These questions resonated deeply with the Romans, and it was three figures, Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, who turned Stoicism from a Greek school of thought into a timeless, practical guide for life. Let's meet them. Seneca was a man who lived at the heart of Roman power. Born in 4 BCE in Cordoba, Spain, Seneca grew up to become a brilliant writer, philosopher, and advisor. Yet his life was marked by contradictions. He preached moderation while living in luxury, and he served tyrants while advocating for virtue. And perhaps that's why Seneca's writings remain so relatable, because they show Stoicism being practiced in the real world, where life isn't perfect and ideals are constantly tested. Seneca entered Roman politics during one of the most turbulent periods in history. He served under the emperors Caligula, Claudius, and finally Nero. Nero, as you may know, wasn't exactly a model of Stoic virtue. He was impulsive, paranoid, and often violent. For the first 5 years of Nero's reign, Seneca acted as a stabilizing force. This period, often called the Quinquennium Neronis, saw relative peace and good governance. Seneca used his influence to moderate Nero's worst tendencies, guided by Stoic principles. But things fell apart. Nero's descent into tyranny made it impossible for Seneca to continue guiding him. Rather than cling to power, Seneca retired from public life, a move that reflected the Stoic belief in controlling what you can and letting go of what you can't. Seneca's choice to step back reminds us that sometimes the wisest action is to walk away. Seneca's most famous works, like Letters to Lucilius and On the Shortness of Life, are timeless because they are practical. Seneca didn't write about abstract theories. He wrote about everyday struggles, how to handle anger, how to face death, and how to find peace amidst the chaos of life. Take his advice on time.
It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it.
Seneca saw time as life's most valuable resource, something we spend without thinking. He urged us to be mindful of how we live because every moment is a chance to practice virtue. Or consider his thoughts on anger.
The greatest remedy for anger is delay.
Seneca believed that anger stems from unrealistic expectations, that we expect the world or people to behave differently than they do. Instead of reacting emotionally, he encouraged us to pause, reflect, and accept what is. These lessons are just as relevant today as they were in ancient Rome. Whether you're stuck in traffic or dealing with a difficult boss, Seneca's advice reminds us to stay calm, deliberate, and in control. In 65 CE, Seneca's story took a tragic turn. He was accused of being part of a conspiracy to assassinate Nero, a charge historians believe was false. Ordered to take his own life, Seneca accepted his fate with remarkable composure. The historian Tacitus describes the scene. Seneca calmly reassured his friends, opened his veins, and faced death with the same philosophy he preached. When his body weakened, he even joked that he was offering his life in small installments. Seneca's death was a powerful example of Stoicism in action, facing the uncontrollable with dignity, courage, and calm. If Seneca showed us Stoicism in the halls of power, Epictetus showed us Stoicism's universal appeal, how it could empower even those at the lowest rungs of society. Born around 50 CE in Hierapolis, modern-day Turkey, Epictetus began life as a slave in Rome. His name literally means acquired in Greek, a reminder of his early status. But Epictetus's story is a testament to one of Stoicism's most powerful ideas.
Freedom comes not from external circumstances, but from mastering your mind.
Epictetus was enslaved to Epaphroditus, a powerful secretary under Nero. Stories say Epaphroditus was harsh and abusive. One tale claims he broke Epictetus's leg, leaving him permanently disabled. But rather than succumbing to bitterness, Epictetus turned inward. He realized that while he couldn't control his master, he could control his response to the suffering. Eventually, Epictetus earned his freedom and dedicated his life to teaching Stoicism. Unlike Seneca, who wrote extensively, Epictetus didn't leave behind his own works. Instead, his student Arrian compiled his teachings into two powerful texts, the Enchiridion, the Handbook, and the Discourses. Epictetus' teachings, Control and Acceptance. Epictetus taught that true freedom comes from focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, and responses, and letting go of everything else.
We are disturbed not by events, but by our opinions about events.
This is one of Epictetus's most famous teachings, and it's deceptively simple. Imagine you're insulted by someone at work. Their words can only hurt you if you allow them to. It's not the insult that causes pain, it's your judgment of the insult. Epictetus encouraged his students to practice detachment. He compared life to a banquet.
When a dish is passed to you, take your portion calmly. If it passes you by, don't grab at it. If it hasn't come yet, don't yearn for it. Wait for your turn.
This metaphor captures the essence of Stoicism. Take what life gives you without complaint, and don't cling to what you can't have. Epictetus's teachings had a profound impact on people from all walks of life. One of his most famous followers was Marcus Aurelius, who would later rule Rome and embody Stoicism as a way of life. Even centuries later, Epictetus' lessons continue to inspire people facing adversity. Soldiers, prisoners of war, and everyday individuals have turned to the Enchiridion for strength and clarity during their darkest moments. Now we come to Marcus Aurelius, the man who proved that Stoicism isn't just for philosophers or slaves, but also for those with unimaginable power. Born in 121 CE, Marcus Aurelius was destined to rule the Roman Empire. He became emperor in 161 CE, overseeing one of the largest and most powerful empires in history. Marcus ruled during a time of great challenges, wars with Germanic tribes, economic hardships, and a devastating plague that wiped out millions of people. Despite the weight of his responsibilities, Marcus remained committed to living a Stoic life. He faced external chaos with internal calm, writing in his private journal, what we now know as Meditations. This journal wasn't meant for anyone's eyes but his own. It's raw, honest, and deeply human. In it, Marcus reminds himself to focus only on what he can control, accept suffering as a natural part of life, treat others with kindness, even when they wrong him. One of his most famous passages reads,
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
Marcus Aurelius ruled not as a tyrant, but as a servant of the people. His actions reflected his philosophy, calm, rational, and compassionate leadership. Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius didn't just talk about Stoicism, they lived it. They showed that Stoicism could guide emperors, empower slaves, and inspire anyone to lead a life of virtue and resilience. Their writings and teachings survived for nearly 2,000 years, influencing countless thinkers, from Renaissance humanists to modern-day leaders, athletes, and entrepreneurs. And that raises an important question. Why has Stoicism made such a comeback in today's world? What can we learn from these ancient teachings to navigate our modern lives? That's what we'll explore in the final section, why Stoicism still matters today. Now that we've explored the origins of Stoicism and met the great minds who made it famous, Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, there's one big question left. Why does Stoicism still matter today? You see, Stoicism isn't some dusty relic of the past. It's a living, breathing philosophy that's more relevant than ever. In a world full of stress, distractions, and uncertainty, Stoicism gives us tools to stay calm, resilient, and focused. Let's break it down and see how Stoicism is helping people around the world live better lives right now. We live in a time of information overload. Social media, breaking news, and constant notifications keep our minds spinning. Add in the pressures of work, relationships, and personal goals, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed. This is where Stoicism shines. It teaches us to focus on what we can control and let go of what we can't. This simple idea has become a guiding principle for modern thinkers, leaders, and even athletes. Let's look at a few areas where Stoicism has made a huge impact. Stress and mental health. One of Stoicism's core teachings is learning to manage your mindset. Epictetus said,
We are disturbed not by events, but by our opinions about events.
in other words, it's not what happens to you that causes stress, it's how you think about it. Imagine being stuck in traffic. You can't change the traffic, but you can control your reaction. You can get angry and frustrated, or you can accept the situation, take a deep breath, and maybe even listen to a podcast or audiobook to make the most of your time. Modern psychologists call this cognitive reframing, but the Stoics knew it 2,000 years ago. By shifting your perspective, you can reduce stress and find peace, no matter the situation. Great leaders throughout history have turned to Stoicism to guide their decisions. In today's world, CEOs, politicians, and military leaders are rediscovering the power of Stoic principles. Take Admiral James Stockdale, for example. During the Vietnam War, Stockdale was captured and spent 7 years as a prisoner of war. He survived the ordeal by applying Stoic teachings, focusing on what he could control, his thoughts and actions, while accepting what he couldn't change. He later said, "I never lost faith in the end of the story. I never doubted that I would prevail." Stockdale's resilience is proof that Stoicism isn't just theory, it's a survival tool. Whether you're leading a team at work, running a business, or navigating a personal crisis, Stoicism helps you make clear, rational decisions under pressure. Elite athletes are also turning to Stoicism to sharpen their minds and boost performance. Think about it. Sports are as much about mental strength as physical ability. A missed shot, a bad call from a referee, or the pressure of competition can shake even the best players. This is where Stoicism's focus on control comes in. Athletes like tennis champion Novak Djokovic and NFL coach Bill Belichick practice Stoic principles to stay calm under pressure. They focus only on what they can control: effort, preparation, and mindset, and let go of everything else. As Marcus Aurelius wrote,
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
whether you're competing in sports, studying for an exam, or preparing for a big presentation, Stoicism teaches you to focus on the process, not the outcome. Now that we've seen how Stoicism is helping leaders, athletes, and everyday people, let's talk about you. How can you apply Stoicism to your own life? Here are 3 practical Stoic exercises you can start using today. 1. The dichotomy of control. Make a list of everything that's stressing you out right now. Then divide that list into 2 categories. What you can control, your thoughts, actions, and decisions. What you can't control, other people's opinions, the weather, the past. Now commit to focusing only on what you can control. Let go of the rest. As Epictetus taught, this is the key to freedom and peace. 2. Negative visualization. This exercise might sound strange, but it's incredibly powerful. The Stoics practiced negative visualization by imagining worst-case scenarios. Why? to prepare themselves mentally and to appreciate what they already had. For example, imagine losing your job, your house, or a loved one. At first, this might seem dark, but it helps you realize how much you value those things and how you could endure if the worst did happen. It also makes you more grateful for what you have right now. As Seneca said,
He robs present ills of their power, who has perceived their coming beforehand.
journaling Marcus Aurelius' Meditations is essentially a journal, a place where he reflected on his thoughts, challenges, and Stoic principles. Journaling can be just as powerful for you. Each night, take a few minutes to write about what went well today, what challenges did you face, and how did you respond? How can you improve tomorrow? Journaling helps you clarify your thoughts, track your progress, and reinforce Stoic habits. So why is Stoicism making a comeback today? Because it speaks to the challenges of modern life. Overwhelming stress, focus on what you can control. Uncertainty about the future, accept it and take things one step at a time. Too many distractions, practice self-discipline and focus on what truly matters. Stoicism doesn't promise to make life easier, it promises to make you stronger. It's a philosophy that empowers you to face challenges head-on, to find meaning in adversity, and to live with purpose, resilience, and peace. And that's why Stoicism has survived for over 2,000 years. It's not just a philosophy for ancient Greeks and Romans. It's a toolkit for anyone who wants to live a better life. As Marcus Aurelius wrote,
Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one.
the Stoics didn't just talk about virtue, they lived it. And now it's our turn. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history and wisdom of Stoicism. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more content on timeless ideas that can help you live a better life. Until next time, remember, focus on what you can control, accept what you can't, and keep moving forward.